Hello, everyone. Welcome. Happy Wednesday. We're super excited to have you. Before we get into housekeeping, some other notes, just want to do some quick introductions of who you're going to be hearing from today. I'll do a quick introduction for myself, Ryan Tyson, Sales Director at Active Prospect. And then before I continue on to that, I would like to introduce my co-host and close friend as well, and client and partner over the last few years. We can dive into a little more of that, but I would love for you, Senya, introduce yourself and give a little background.
Yeah, hello, everyone. And Ryan, thank you so much for having me. I told you this multiple times, but I'll say it for the public. I couldn't imagine having a better co-host with this. You're just such a light and a treasure to the industry. So thank you again for inviting me. Hi, everyone. I'm Senya Spellman. I have, almost all of my professional background in home services. And most recently decided to venture off on my own and start a consulting company. So you'll see right there below me on whatever side. Yes, thank you. Sisu Synergy, is my new consulting company that I'm starting, primarily focusing in the home services space for all performance marketing, lead generation, all the things that we love as folks in home services. So super excited to be here, talk more about what that looks like for me, and then give some folks some really insightful information on how to make the most of their leads.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. And, for myself, very similar to Senya, most of my experience has been in home services as well, the last 8 to 10 years. Actually started, which one of our topics today we'll touch on is, sort of the top of funnel call center process and call center morale. That is where I started my career on the cold calling side. Very thankless job, but we need those individuals, as we all know. So started off on the lead gen side there. And then for some of you in the audience, you may know of a platform called Think Unlimited. Leads Oring, spent some short time there. Senya, I know you're pretty well aware of the folks over there as well. So super excited to have you guys. Like Senya said, just quick background. I remember going to multiple shows my first couple of years at Active Prospect, and I don't think we met till year 2, but a lot of my other partners you were always at every dinner. You were always, having cocktails with folks. So it's very funny how we've quickly become friends after, we worked together at Bathworks in Michigan, I believe, and then we were short stint at Home Genius as well. So it's been great to, kind of echo what you said in terms of having the partnership and friendship that we have. So it's been great. And then getting in, go ahead.
One of the first things I said to you, Ryan, when I met you, I started off high maintenance because I'm like, I got to set the standard. I said, Ryan, I don't want to be sitting over here outside. I want to be sitting over there. And you said, okay, let me see what we can do. And you made it happen. So
I'll just say the way I was raised, my mother would not have appreciated it if I didn't take care of it. So
if Ryan's anything, he is accommodating. That's for sure.
All right. So getting into more so topics for today, guys. Again, with Senya's background and my background, we've really had a close focus just in terms of top of funnel, whether that's how do we generate high quality leads and turn those into customers. And then, really where Senya's focus has been is all things on the digital marketing side as well as call center. Before we get into that, a few housekeepings, please ask questions. She and I both have the ability to look at chat. So, we want to keep this as interactive as possible for you guys. A lot of knowledge here in this room. I believe we like to think of ourselves as the, sort of young minds up and coming in home services, given our ages. So all to say there, live recording, if you are not able to make it, live recording will be sent out tomorrow if you need to share, post, whatever you guys need. And then we'll have a couple interactive poll questions for you guys as we go through as well.
Awesome.
And then just kind of topics for today, leveraging technology. Senya, I know, just, kind of giving your background, if you want to touch on it a bit, just kind of the vague question would be, I know you've worked with a lot of different technologies. How beneficial is technology for you, kind of in your background, both as now a consultant, but, also when you're on the media buying side?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like technology is a complete game changer, especially when it comes to your call center. I think call center tech stacks are a completely underutilized advantage in our space. I know that sometimes people will refer to some of the things that we do as archaic, and I completely agree in a certain sense. And not only just making sure that your leads throughout the funnel is it beneficial with technology, but also things along the lines of training, of retention, of morale. There's a lot of really great benefits that certain technology can add to your business model.
Awesome. Yeah. And then, kind of as we touch on some of those key points, we'll go through some of the strategies and best practices that I think we've seen. Again, Senya's worked in a lot of, mid to large size companies, has a ton of knowledge there. I have, been lucky enough to work in those companies alongside her and, kind of work with, a lot of the larger companies that we know today, West Shore Home, Premier Home Pros, Express Flooring, Josh Turnick, if you're out there, shout out to you as well. So again, a lot of knowledge here that we want to share. And whether you're a $5 million company, $10 million company, looking to scale to 30, 50, or, you're already there looking to go to 100, we think these are, kind of key thoughts and key processes that you guys should be thinking of throughout, the growth, or if not, throughout the scale of your business. So we'll start it off with a poll question. Given we're going to focus on top of funnel and, lead acquisition, where are we getting our customer acquisition from? Is it, socials? Is it third-party lead vendors? Is it the organic visits from the website? We would just kind of love to understand if you guys are dealing with one or more of these challenges.
Yeah. And I know we're discussing in large scale organizations, and especially as you scale, I feel like a lot of folks can probably say that almost all of these are applicable, especially when you're scaling at an aggressive rate. There's so much that can get lost through the cracks that it's almost impossible to keep up if you don't have the right partners. Awesome.
Yeah. And I'm seeing some votes come in now, legal risk, wasted spend, finding the right partners. Interesting. That's the highest vote so far. So we'll spend a little bit of time on these slides, folks. I think these are super important. Again, top of funnel, where are we focusing? I think for the active prospect side would be, what are you doing to document consent? What are you doing to ensure that when your brand is, kind of as we transition this webinar into the call center, what are we doing to ensure that your brand, the installation company that you have, is protected from outbound phone calls, outbound texting, outbound emails? It's as simple as just, an unsolicited phone call. So curious, Senya, on your side, have you, not that we need to name names, but in your background, have you ever, come across any legal risk on the TCPA side?
Yes, we have. But, funny enough, just reflecting on my history, it wasn't exclusively within the outbound dialing of our lead aggregators. We've experienced this. I mean, there's people that do this full time for a living, right? They're going to try to find any type of hole that you have in your process to take advantage of it, regardless of if you're a large organization or a smaller organization. If anything, if you're under $10 million, I would be more afraid because you don't have that heavy legal power that someone of a larger scale business would have. But we saw it on event marketing side. You get your information from someone at a home show and you think, well, of course they gave me their information. I don't need the opt-in language, but you do. Right. In any way that you're touching the customer, it's vital to be able to have that proof that they gave you their information.
Awesome. Yeah. Well said. Well said. Kind of moving across, I think wasted spend and effort as well. It's whether you've been in the third-party lead gen space, the publisher space, for a few months, years. I think we all know that I'm very close to with a lot of lead partners, but I think transparency drives trust, right? So where is that data being generated from? Why am I buying it? Is it an actual appointment? Is it an actual valuable lead that I can convert into, a set appointment, and then that appointment into a sale? Curious on this point as well, Senya, did you deal and have you seen more wasted spend and effort with the smaller brands you've been working with and consulting with, or, kind of in-house with larger brands? Have you seen a trend there in terms of where you see more wasted spend and effort?
I feel like it's a universal experience, regardless of the size of the partner. You see that in any space. If you're referring to like a business size of smaller businesses versus larger businesses, I feel, again, it's we're all using a lot of the same folks, but we're just having a different volume of buying these leads. So you're going to see it just on a different scale. Like we discussed this earlier, Ryan, and one of my biggest pet peeves as someone who has managed call centers and worked very closely with call centers, and you related to this as someone that was in the call center space at one point. It's, for me, it's not so much about saving money on buying the lead as it is keeping morale high and saving the time of our reps. Anyone that's witnessed call centers understand that it's a very emotionally taxing job, day in, day out, making the same calls and not being able to, either connect with someone or connect with someone that isn't interested. And I know we'll touch on this later, but wasted time, effort, and spend is a universal challenge. And I think no matter your business size, you should be focused on it. Love it.
Well said. Well said. And then as we think about the automation behind our business, what does the process look like? What's the tech stack we're using? This is where I will touch on, some of the, at Active Prospect, some of the benefits that I believe we do give a lot of folks, in the home services space, which is, how are you yielding the connectivity between your sources? How are you, doing API calls? Yes, there's a lot of platforms out there, but what are things that are directly going to put all the data together and send that off to your CRM? I can think of a lot of things like, I believe we talked about it too, Senya. You were a big proponent of Blacklist Alliance. Just scrubbing for known litigators on the phone number and email, high-risk phone numbers that your brand should not be calling. That's a huge one. Shout out Blacklist Alliance. And then, I think another one, right, like is just making sure speed to leads there. If there's any breaks there, it's just, that's going to directly affect into, again, our next point of how does call center morale stay up, and all these things can really affect that. And then last point we'll touch on here is finding the right partners. I think it's interesting. This has been the highest vote. Which is, we're all looking to add to our portfolio as lead buyers. Again, whether it's on the first party organic side, the third party lead gen side. Something that I think I can, really recommend to the audience would be, at Active Prospect, we live in the middle of a lot of lead vendors and a lot of buyers. So yes, we really love to support the individuals who, are TCPA compliant, who love to offer transparency with our buyers. So, please contact us. We can always introduce you to as many partners as you guys need. We give a lot of recommendations on, sort of the one sheet side of what questions should you be asking your lead vendor. And so that kind of leads me into my question for you, Senya. Like you as a lead buyer, you've done it time and time again. You've worked with, 10 to 20 to 30 of vendors. How do you like to engage with a lead source? What does that conversation look like? Are there any, points you should be making right off the jump when you're looking at a new lead source?
Yeah, great question, Ryan. I want to just quick touch on what you mentioned. I would say first and foremost, if Active Prospect gives me a lead source or a lead partner, that automatically gives me a certain amount of trust and confidence to work with them. Because if they're willing to say, hey, this is all of the data about this lead, we want to give it to you, we want to be transparent, that means a lot to me as a buyer, that you're not generating a lot of leads that won't convert, that you're just having me pay and then send to my team. So I love when anytime there's that overlap with Active Prospect, and that relationship means a lot to us. I would say at the conception of a partnership with a lead vendor, one of the biggest things that we like to understand is how these leads are generated. Is it going to be another paid social lead partner? Is it going to be someone that does it through native advertising, through paid search, what have you? So then that way we can curate how we're going to have the call cadence be done. Then I would say secondary, for me, and there's a non-running joke that Amy Zimmerman, Senior Vice President of Marketing at Great Day, and I have, when we used to work together, is lead vendors would say, how many leads can you take? And we say, all of them. Give us all of them. So are you sure your call center can support that? And obviously we knew in the back of our mind, you're going to give us 5 leads. You're telling us you're going to give us 200, but you're going to give us 5. So what we like to ask at the beginning is, what is the opt-out clause for us? Because if we're given this really high amount of volume as a prediction and it under delivers, we don't want to be stuck in this partnership of having to manage something that's only 5 leads a month. I know some people like to manage a lot of different partners, and more power to them. I think that's really impactful. But for me, if we can consolidate those partnerships and really foster them and focus on that relationship, that's really important. I would also say too, is anyone else in the space that they work with. that's one of the things that I love about our industry and home services is it's so well connected. Whether you are a really amazing lead partner or maybe not so amazing of a lead partner, people are definitely going to find out. So if there's ever someone that comes up, I mean, I go to all my folks in the space. I go to Jay Shaw at Bath Experts. I go to Amy Zimmerman at Great Day. I will talk to Macy Bailey at USA Showers. Like we're all really well connected. And so we like to be sure that the people that we know have the right information for their business.
Yeah, well said. And I think on top of that too, just to add one more layer would be me being in the position that I'm in at Active Prospect, being between seller and buyer. It's our platform is very volume based. I want buyers to have more installs and I want sellers to sell more leads, right? So the more that we can connect and the more that we can refer business guys, whether you're an existing client listening, maybe someone who's looked at Active Prospect, maybe someone in Senya's network. We can always help. I can think off the top of my head, Joe Denita at HomeU. He's a big referral partner of mine. Tommy Seski, my Home Pros, Nick and Brian at BuyerLink. All these individuals, guys, have been in the game a long time and really understand, I think, to the points we're making of what does it take to have a solid partnership on the lead side.
Yeah, I remember when Amy and I first started piloting, actually, Daniel from Clever, who Daniel and Luca, great guys over there that I've worked with at Clever. I remember shouting it from the rooftops how amazing they are. Now I look back, I'm like, oh, they're an exclusive lead partner. I almost wish I would have gate kept them a little more, but that's not the nature of our industry. If if someone's doing an amazing job, people are definitely going to hear it in the space. Right,
and then so I think moving on, what's important to talk about top of funnel is, what will home services companies, what can you expect? This is pulled for my side, Senya, which is we can typically assume 10% of all leads that are in your funnel are junk of some sort. I say junk. This is kind of how we define junk, which would be, is it a duplicate lead? Have I bought it in the last 15, 30, 60 days, whatever that look back period would be? Is it non-contactable? Is there even a working phone number? A lot of home services, quick use case here. A lot of partners of ours, call centers out there. If you have a call center and you're struggling to get a phone number to pick up, a lot of the Active Prospect users and clients, they will leverage Trestle. It's a phone validation system. Huge value add to kind of that entire lead process and tech stack that you can build inside your lead process. That again we'll touch on a little more, but all these kind of categories break down that 10%, just things to be thinking about of what should I be looking for? What are things that are causing higher cost of marketing in my business when I look at, again, first and third party marketing? All these can really yield those higher cost of marketing costs. And then as we kind of look through, Senya, I would ask you, when those leads come through, kind of a two-part question for you. We have good and bad leads coming through. That topic right there, just thinking of, we have high quality and low quality coming through. If we don't have a vetting system in place, what is that doing to call center morale? How do we, kind of help shift the call center morale? I would ask you overall, if we're getting bad leads in, there's only so much we can do. But if we have a system in place, we have a good tech stack built, what are some examples? What are some use cases that you can give us in terms of how to keep call center happy, how to keep retention high?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Ryan. And this is something that I'm really passionate about because I have seen, again, firsthand, just like you have, of how grueling this job is. I listen to a lot of calls. I think any talented marketer in our space should be listening to a lot of calls to, number one, understand what these folks are dealing with, but also what the customer is saying. And for us, we like to keep things fresh and have it be a little bit more of an exciting experience because this job is so mundane and routine. So first and foremost, balance competition and team spirit. We want our reps to have a little bit of a competitive edge so that they can achieve that speed to lead, like you said. In my experience, when we set up our dialers, we've had it so, folks have a chance to call it in the immediate, but they only get about 2 to 3 seconds. And if you miss that spot, well, then it's going to go to someone else and you can't have any sort of animosity of anything except yourself because you had that opportunity and you didn't capitalize on it. So I think that is really important. And then team spirit too, cheering each other on, sharing our wins of the week, what we found that was really productive, something that we did that we were proud of. That's been something that I've witnessed from a call center standpoint to keep morale high. And also you want to see your teammates win. an incentive-based routine, use incentives, to beat routines. So let me give you an example of this. For us, we love to have like the next day flash competition. So anyone who sets a next day right now is going to get $5 or $10, $15, whatever that payment structure looks like for your business. Plus the top person is going to get to leave an hour early from work and have it be paid, or be able to get a $50 gift card to the store of their choice. Again, that breeds the double edge of having it also be that anyone can get this bonus, right? So they feel motivated the entire time. But then you have the top 3 performers that are like, okay, I have 6, she has 7, let me get to 7. Oh, now she has 8, let me keep climbing. And it builds that momentum. Give ongoing feedback and clarity. This is something, again, that I think is really important. And not only giving feedback on a one-on-one basis, which can be really beneficial, but feedback from a team standpoint. I've worked in different settings of call centers where sometimes they like to gatekeep the other people's successes or the other people's progress. And I'm like, why not? Let's open the door. Let's show what the top rep is doing so that you understand what it takes to be at this level and earn, this amount of bonus or this amount of freedom that this person gets to experience. Like, it's really impactful for people to understand what the standard is and then what they need to do to get that.
So quick question for you then. Let's pretend we're hiring new folks in call centers and we're trying to fill seats, right? So what's the onboarding strategy for you? Or, what have you seen be successful, right? Because I've worked with clients where a lot of times they're trying to decide, do I give a new rep, a 30-day-old lead, 60-day-old lead? Do I give them a fresh lead? What do you think, I kind of, as we look at, yes, we're using technology to filter, make sure we get top of funnel correct. But then once those leads come in, the distribution of that is huge. And so when I think of new hires and filling the seats, right, how do you suggest, or what's your best practice on that topic?
Yeah, again, I love that. Something I'm very passionate about. I have it, on here about training and distributing the leads wisely, exactly like you phrased it, Ryan. I've been in spaces where for the first 30 to 60 days, the rep is on these really old leads. And it's so, in my opinion, it's so debilitating because you're making these calls again and again, and you're not connecting with anyone. You're at a brand new company. You have no idea what this role is supposed to look like. Like 80% of our hires, in my experience, had never really had call center experience. So they're thinking to themselves, is this what a call center job is? Just dialing day in, day out. You're not making your bonuses that you were promised during the interview that's possible. So for me, I really love to have a staggered approach when it comes to providing leads to your call center reps. And, anyone that's listening to this, I'm not saying give them your brand new, fresh, TV inbound leads. I'm not saying that. But I do think if you're going to separate, you have these calling cadences of, let's say, like 60 to 90-day-old leads. You give these new folks 60s to 90s for the first 2 days, and then throw them a bone. Give them the 5 to 7s, give them the 3 to 5s, however it's distributed. Not brand new, but something that's attainable so that they can maintain their confidence, and then go back to the older leads and have it move that way. And I think that when you're able to let folks know that it's possible and they see it and believe that it's possible, they're going to want to stay with your organization so much longer. And in home services, our biggest barrier that I've witnessed in the past year and a half is recruitment and retention.
Yeah, no, it's well said. And then we'll have a poll question coming up for you guys on the call center morale topic, which is, what strategies are you guys using to, kind of keep this morale high? We'll look at the votes coming in.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been there, right? In the situation where someone calls us or we do a call to customer service and they have the absolute worst attitude on the phone. And I mean, how easy it is to say, okay, this is not the company for me. It's right. Call center is our first impression for the customer for a majority of our leads. And so it's like, why would we not want these folks to be in the best headspace that they can be so that they can give that attitude and that impression to the people that don't even know who we are? So I'm very
of course. Yeah. And then, moving on and thinking of what does the framework of all this look like? This is where I want you guys to really holistically look at what does the business look like? How do I go from top of funnel through? How do I get exactly what we've been touching on, which is high quality lead into the call center, keep that morale high. This process would look like this. This is a quick framework. Active Prospect can do all of this for you just in terms of ingesting the lead from a first or third party, and then going through basic things like a dupe verification. Have I bought this in the last 30 to 60 days? And I think what's important, guys, is every home services company out there has a different style, has a different thought around what is a quality lead for me. Senya may think a high quality lead is a phone number and an email, just a way that I can contact them. I may think a high quality lead is a phone number, email, zip code, and I need to append, homeowner status, and make sure there's a valid phone number. So the way that you can really shake this up and understand for your business, how do I convert at the highest rate and how do I lower my cost of marketing? All of these different steps and checks and balances, as I call them, can help with that process. Again, compliance, just having that on the back end is, really big to understand. Hey, is this a valid lead that I should be calling? Again, if my call center rep is dialing and dialing and dialing, and the lead, number one will never pick up, where's the motivation there? To Senya's point, there's very, very little. And then as we get through, just how do we beef up a lead? What technologies are out there to be able to, yes, I've done the checks and balances on the front end, but what technologies can I do to better this lead on the back end, which would be, things like CoreLogic. What are the property details? I think the old age joke here too, Senya, would be, I think we'd all be billionaires if we could figure out how to run credit score before that, we purchased them. Right?
So my sales team would love me.
Yeah, if you figure that out, you have $1 billion idea. But just keep this framework in your head, because what this can do, guys, is all in less than a second. There are platforms out there like Active Prospects platform that can automate this entire process for you. And the cost is pretty minimal when it comes to what we're paying, for the average CPLs in this industry. These lead vendors, will continue to, increase prices and increase prices. So just anything you can do to automate this process, look at these different technologies. And then on the back end, guys, it's how do we quickly distribute this to multiple endpoints? Does it need to go to a CRM? Does it need to go to our dialing system? A lot of larger clients like to deliver all the data, off into, like an AWS server. How do we offload data to make sure that these other platforms aren't owning our data? All this to kind of think about the framework of lead filtering and lead management, that can, again, lower cost of marketing in the long run and keep all your morale high.
100%.
And then getting through to touching on the different channels. I think with your background, Senya, this is a huge point of what you've done for the last 8 to 10 years. Yeah. Proven tactics that have worked for you. So, on the first party side, on the third party side, give us, again, some of your do's and don'ts in this space in terms of what you see work.
Definitely. And for me, I would just want to preface, this is your owned leads. And I know a lot of folks don't leverage Active Prospect for their owned leads. They'll leverage it for the leads generated through third-party aggregators, which obviously I can completely see the benefit in that. But for owned leads, I love to run our own leads through Active Prospect. And so just to touch on the do. So dupe verification, that is one that is a game changer, in my opinion, again, for not only paying for a lead that you don't need, not only to manage your wasted time for your call center, but also to understand how you are functioning against other partners. So I know there's a lot of folks in the space that have an internal Facebook or Meta or paid social campaign, and they also run with their partners. And so how great is it to see, okay, we're running our Facebook ads. We have Clever in the space running our Facebook ads. And for us, 30 to 40% of our leads that we're running internally are being marked as duplicates because they came in first with Clever. Okay, well, what's Clever doing that's amazing that we're not either doing the right way? And how do we pivot from that? Do we pull our funding and not waste our time doing our own and give it all to Clever? Or do we optimize our campaign to better perform? And those are questions, that you have to ask yourself as a marketer. Then internal DNC list, I feel that this is a no-brainer. If you have someone that's worked with your company that has been combative with your call center team or has been abusive, I mean, we've heard a lot of weird calls in our space. Don't give them the time and the ability to keep hassling our call center reps. Like, they do not have that clearance, and they shouldn't be given that opportunity. And we know people in this space that will fill out forms just so that we'll call them, and that they'll yell at us because they, just not to go to therapy or what have you. I don't know. But I think that's a really important part for us as well. And then geo-targeting. So with the algorithm and a lot of paid social, they do it by your IP. So we have folks that are, let's say they're a Portland resident, they're traveling to Michigan, they get a bath ad, they say, oh, wow, there's a jacuzzi dealer here. It's Bathworks. Let me click it. This sounds great. Yeah, Bathworks doesn't serve you in Portland. So to geo-target and make sure that you're filtering out those people that maybe had a different IP, maybe using a VPN or what have you, we want to make sure that we're only getting the leads that we can service, and that still is applicable to your owned leads generation. And then finally, for the don'ts, this I was explaining to you, Ryan, the method behind the madness to this one is for any of our owned leads, I will never dupe reject more than 7 days. And I'll tell you why. So in our experience, when I look into our CRM and we get a lead in, it's, I would say about 1/3 to 1/2 of the time, that lead has been in before from other sources, whether it's one of our paid lead partners or whether it's from paid search, they're coming into paid social, what have you. People take time. This is a big decision that they're making. And if we can't, set them on the first time they come in, they might come in a little bit later. So if you have, let's say, a partner that has a non-exclusive lead that they're giving to 4 other contractors in the space, and everyone's calling them, they're denying everyone's calls, but they're listening to the voicemails, they're understanding who's out there. They might want to do a little bit of research. And after some time and consideration, they think, okay, this is the right company for me. I'm ready to move forward. They fill out a form on your website, but you have a dupe reject window of 30 days. They're ready to buy. They've done the research now. They're good to go. But you're saying, oh, this isn't a qualified lead because they're in our system already. And I think that's a key hindrance.
And I think that's an interesting point, because what I tell a lot of clients too, and when I'm talking to marketing teams, it's, to your point, it's the consumer behavior's changed, right? It's and a lot of what we do in home services, it's not a need, it's a want, right? So it's not many people are making a quick decision on their bathroom, and that's where again the process and what you're doing as a company really come into play. And I think it's so impactful what you said about, I will accept a lead 7 days later, because your mindset there is, we're not wasting money. Your mindset is, we have an interested customer. So I think that's a really interesting way to kind of twist that. And a lot of brands out there, depending on what scale they have, a lot of them will kind of take that initial step and say, we don't want to pay for this, but yet it easily convert into a sale. So well said. And then I know you have, just again, based off background, I know you have a pretty distinct background in TV and radio and, a lot of other areas. Can you touch on, some of the event marketing, all the categories that you'll see on your screen here? Just touch on a few of these for us, if you don't mind.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to speak on this, especially Ryan, because I know that there's a lot of people in home services that practice strictly performance marketing, which I completely understand that everything has to have a direct ROI, but we've seen it in a lot of different spaces that scalability is so important when you pair it with offline marketing. And when I say offline marketing, I'm talking about, TV, radio, direct mail, newspaper, all that good stuff. I think a really strong example of a company that did it the right way is Tundraland Home Improvements. And I don't think anyone in home services can be in home services without knowing Tundraland Home Improvements. Brian Gottlieb just executed this amazingly, with Amy on the team, of making sure that people in the state of Wisconsin, that service area, knew the brand of Tundraland inside and out. So it was a lot of emphasis on TV, a lot of emphasis on cause marketing, which is those corporate sponsorships, getting community engagement, things along those lines. And so for TV, if you want to have a nice balance, you want that ROI, you want that direct response, but you also want the branding. I love, and Amy, taught me this, to have a seasonal promotion, something to catch the person's eye, to give that sense of urgency, say it's right now. It's our October holiday sale. We have spooky good deals, what have you. We might have that same deal 3 months from now, 4 months from now, but right now, because it's seasonal, it feels like something exclusive, and we really want people to act on it. Then,
real quick on that, if I can ask, did you, with those marketing campaigns you built, did you guys, in any capacity, was it a pretty, I don't want to say generic, was it a, sort of a blanket promotion, or did you have any sort of tech that allowed you to understand what type of persona, what type of buyer that person would be, and then target that way?
I think for us, we try to get really creative with our promotions. There's nothing that we wouldn't try. We've done everything in the bath space, anything from, upgrading to a specific type of accessory, to percentages off your install, to free install, to dollars off your project. For us, it was all about obviously looking at the response and seeing what stuck to people. We had a lot of great partners like Jacuzzi at the time, one of our vendors that did that in-depth market research for us. And if you're not able to have that type of leverage or invest in that because your marketing budget's a little more limited, I mean, the data is so impactful, and especially the direct response that you get from TV. So I think the best way to kind of manage that and look at the effectiveness is make sure you have those ways directly on those TV ads or radio, what have you, for folks to contact you. So I'm talking vanity numbers, and vanity numbers is that 1-800-NEW-BATH, 844-UR-GENIUS. Shout out to Home Genius. Along those lines, QR codes that people can scan and they're directly attributed to the source, customized URLs, customized microsites. You really want to make sure that you're understanding when those leads came in, what was attributed to it, so you can understand what worked and what didn't.
And then just as far as back-end drip campaigns and things like that, I know we touched on promotions. What technologies out there have you leveraged in your background, in terms of like SMS platforms and, ways to reach consumers on that front?
Yeah, we have worked with a lot of different folks. We've worked with Marlamar. I've worked with Verse before, worked with Hatch, a lot of different people in this space. In my opinion, what I love is I love to have the dialer and the SMS all in one platform. And the reason why is because you don't know, someone could have texted you on a separate platform that said, hey, I'm at work. You're starting to tick me off and I've gotten calls right now, but call me back at 6 because I do want to hear about your bath services. But you don't see that. The call center rep doesn't see that because it's in a separate platform. So there are plenty of dialers that allow all of that to be in one conversation. That also gives the call center team member that feeling of, okay, I have all the information here. I'm able to make the best decision with what I have. But when it's sideload like that, in my opinion, it's not the most productive. So when you look for a dialer, if you are on a dialer or using any dialer technology, ask if that's something that you can add on to your service. And if it's not, maybe start exploring, other options, or even having it integrated in some other way, maybe in the CRM, or maybe, in any other back end function that you have. But it's so vital for the call center rep to know the communication.
Yeah. And then, kind of in your history, do you see more, just for the, because I don't know how many people out here are doing SMS versus email, versus dialing, but when we when we put emailing and texting in the same bucket, typically text messaging is going to have a much higher conversion rate. Is that what you've seen in your history as well?
Yeah, definitely. A much higher open rate for sure. I know that a lot of more people interact with those text messages over email, and it's so personal, right? Like even if people don't respond to it, we know that they've seen it. There's more opt-out rates too, which means that they're looking at the messaging. So I think it's a great way to connect with people, but make sure you have a balance, because if you are bombarding someone in any platform, on texting, on email, even calling, there's a very easy possibility that they're not going to want to hear from you anymore.
Yeah. And, just as you think about, you talked about consolidating all that into one. I know there's a lot of brands that do not do that. So as you think about how to connect all those systems, how do I get data to multiple endpoints? Something that Active Prospect is very, very strong at. Again, I know it's very hard for, a $5 to $10 million company to just, rip everything out and start brand new. So again, if you need some sort of solution that can get information to multiple points seamlessly, that's what Active Prospect is built on, and getting data from one point to another. So awesome. Yeah. I'll let you touch on any of them. I'll let you touch on any other topics here that we've passed over if needed.
Yeah, well, we have, Ryan and I have access to the Q&A, and I saw one question that I feel like is applicable to this. And it was, in your opinion, how has the definition of a high quality lead changed over the last 5 years? And I wanted to say 5 years ago or 6 years ago, during COVID time, as we know, that was the absolute boom for home services. Everyone was ready to buy, no matter what. They're stuck in their home. They realize how much they don't like whatever they're trying to fix. And it was like, shooting fish in a barrel. But I think right now, the way that the definition of high quality lead has changed is because they're getting so many options. Those retargeting folks, those reoccurring visitors that your vendors like Full Throttle can identify, or have, Wheelhouse Group in here that can identify frequent visitors to your website. Those are going to be those really high quality leads. And making sure that you identify if those folks came in from a retargeting ad, and making sure that you're giving those to the right people to foster, because those are the folks that have gone through all of the research. They've heard out other types of companies, your competitors, or maybe they were looking at other projects like, do I want to get new windows, or do I want to get a new bath? And they're ready to work with you. So I think that's a big way that the definition has changed over the last 5 years. So again, retargeting, make sure if people are coming to you multiple times, you're reaching them too, because you want to make sure to meet them where they're at. And then real quick, just to finish up here, and I love how we touched on it at the beginning, Ryan, event marketing and canvassing needs to be opted in to call them. You cannot just get someone's phone number and say you talk to them and call them. Please make sure that you get that consent. And I know that a lot of times people, they don't even think about it, because why would you? You're walking up to someone. What, did we just pull the numbers out of thin air and dial them out? No. So that's really important to me. And then I would also, for the Google paid and paid search, one thing that we really like to have is making sure that there's multiple touch points for the customer to reach you. So top of the fold, which is the very beginning of that website, when you open it up, make sure there's a button to contact us, a web form, something right there that makes it as easy as you can for the customer, and streamlines that process for them to get in touch with you.
Yeah. And then answering another question, how are you approaching lead partner selection in 2025? I would say, and I tell clients and prospects this all the time, guys, which is you should be interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you.
Definitely.
As many questions as they want to make sure that, yes, a lot of these vendors will just want to sell, leads to you guys. You should be telling them, hey, this is what I'm willing to buy. This is what I'm willing to accept. And there's no budging, things like, I want to make sure a trusted form is on every single lead that I buy. I want to make sure I'm compliant.
Mm-hmm.
I want to take this partnership seriously. I want to do, something like a biweekly, call. I want to check conversion. I want to do any sort of progress reporting. And then again, if you are someone who has active prospect, or you're looking at active prospect, bring us up on those conversations. Lead vendors, there's a large misconception in our space that lead vendors don't like us. But I'd say 9 out of 10 do, guys, because if they try to sell a lead to you and then that lead gets rejected, they can go around and sell it to someone else whose criteria that fits. So don't always think because you're rejecting a lead, it's not valuable to someone else. So any system technology you can put in place, like a lead conduit at Active Prospect, that's all going to help those conversations when you're, onboarding and looking at new vendors. And then, I would tell you last thing there is test. I think we've said that so many times, Senya, test them out. Lead vendors change. I wouldn't I wouldn't have it be, let's test 20 leads and let's call it a day. That doesn't really give us a good indication of what's capable and what that source can yield us in terms of, set rates and conversion. So, and a lot of it, again, depends on what you guys are doing in your call centers, what you guys are doing in your scriptings. That's the constant back and forth I hear between buyer and seller. It's, well, what are you doing in call center? Well, it's your leads suck. So if conversations you're having, put some technology in the middle that is, it's not biased to either side. And you can ensure that and you have the comfortability that every single lead that your call center rep is attacking in 2025, as you look at new lead vendors, is a lead that you guys want. And all that to say, again, I work with tons of clients, guys, that are always looking for lead vendors. Email me after this webinar. I can share with you what I call an open enrollment sheet. I share with a lot of clients. It's just things you should be thinking about when you're onboarding a lead vendor. What criteria should I look for? And, what sort of cadence should I set up? So happy to share that with anyone on this call as well.
Yeah. And then one last thing that I want to touch on quick, Ryan, because there's been a couple nefarious folks in the space, I think that have taken advantage of people in home services excited for leads. I would recommend never pre-buying leads. I know that we've done it in the past, and we were fortunate enough that it worked out. But I know a couple people in the space that were convinced, oh yeah, invest, $5,000 and you're going to get 500 leads, and this will be the return, and this and that. Let them walk the walk first before you take any type of basically, like deal with them of saying, yes, I trust you. You just met this person. They could be someone that isn't even known in the space. Just because they have LinkedIn connections does not mean that they are, credible. So there was a certain situation that happened with one of my dear friends. And obviously as someone in home services, that really upsets me because it's taking advantage of our, creativity and us wanting to try new things. So do not pre-buy your leads. Make sure that you're paying for them as they come.
Yeah, and then just looking in chat as well, I'll touch on one more here. It's how do you believe the definition of high quality leads changed over the last 5 years? It's interesting as being in my position, what high quality looked like, I think dating back to early 2024, which was when we all thought we were going to have a one-to-one consent, in the TCPA and the FTC and FCC. So that's changed a lot in terms of what high quality looks like. I think the overall what I'll call marketing and business owner and people that are in home services guys, like the definition is different across the board. A lot of people will look at a high quality lead as someone who picks up the phone. Others will look at a high quality lead as a lead that's only going to me. Yes, you're going to pay more for that lead. So I think you as a business need to understand, what are my marketing budgets? What am I looking to solve for in my lead purchasing efforts? Do I want to buy as much volume as possible? Am I in multiple territories? Because that changes the game. I've talked to a lot of clients who think, a 25% set rate, may be low or high. And it's the perception's all different, right? So I think you need to establish how to get your cost of marketing at a number that makes sense for you on the leads you're buying. I know Senya knows this, but if we're buying, if we buy 25 leads all at, $20 a pop and the ROI and the cost of marketing makes sense, that's good conversion. It just depends on yes, your set rates may not be that high, but your cost of marketing is low, and that could yield you a good source. So the perception and how everyone envisions it's different. So I think what I would tell you is think about what you believe is a good quality lead and what that cost of marketing should be.
Yeah. And then I saw one more question that I want to touch on in the chat. How are you dealing with phone carriers blocking calls? The best thing I think as a call center that you can invest in is spam remediation software. I know that we have experience with Regal, REGAL, and they were a great partner. That's actually who we used also for our dialer at Bathworks that housed all of our communication. Make sure that you are investing in spam remediation, because once one of those major carriers like AT&T, Verizon mark you as spam, you will not be reaching a third of the folks that you're dialing out to because of how strong that hold is and how many customers they have in the space. And then especially, I don't know if folks are as nerdy as I am, but Apple released their new iOS 26, or they were showcasing it. And basically what's going to happen, not to put the fear of God in anyone, but it's going to be a process that people can have on their phones where if they don't recognize the phone number, the person has to leave a message first, and then they get that shown on their screen, and they're able to either choose, yes, I want to accept this, or no, I'm going to deny it. So as this starts to roll out, I would encourage all folks that are in the call center space, the marketing space, start thinking proactively. How can you make sure that you are articulating your message the right way to have people want to answer that phone and get ahead of the curve there? Because that's going to be, I think, a really big change that a lot of us are going to see, especially as so many people have the iPhone.
Awesome. Yeah. And then any other questions in here that we missed? How are you training staff to adapt to changing consumer expectations? Ooh, that's a good one. If you have an answer there, I'll let you run with that one.
No, that's a great question. I think when they're saying changing consumer expectations, are we referring to maybe the consumers having more easily attainable information in today's world of technology? That's how I'm interpreting it anyway. I would focus more on the value of the visit, and we have really emphasized the value of the visit, of making sure that the customer understands through our script adherence that this is more of a benefit to them than it is for us. Like, we're going to come out, we're going to give you all the measurements of these windows. We're going to give you all of the different options that you have. We'll identify any areas maybe that even aren't relevant to us that you should look into and be able to assist. So I think that would be a big part within the call center side. I know that within sales, they're doing a lot of training as well. I unfortunately don't have experience in that space.
Yeah. And, just to add on top of that, I would just think too, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but meeting the consumer where the consumer's at, I think is important, right? what type of channel do they want to be communicated with.
Mm-hmm.
And if your process, if your systems don't have that ability, well, then again, we're probably setting ourselves up for, a little bit of failures on that side in terms of getting that lead form, that prospect, whatever you want to call them, as a customer. So again, if we're, always dialing the phone and, the consumer behavior is changing, to texting, we should probably be having a texting channel so that we can communicate how that consumer wants to be communicated with.
I love that, Ryan. Yeah, it's shocking to me how many folks, especially like big companies, are leveraging SMS for only outbound communication. There's no such thing as a reciprocal conversation. And I always thought that was just so mind-boggling, because I know personally, as someone that's a millennial, I love to text. I don't want you to call me. I'm not going to pick up the phone for that. But to future-proof our brands, right? We're so blinded by the average age for home ownership right now, which I think is it went up to 52 or 53 years old. But eventually the people that are younger are going to be in this space of needing our service. So why not be proactive and have these processes set up before they get there?
No, I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, awesome, guys. Well, if there's no more questions, I think we are good to wrap. Let's look through here. So just some housekeeping notes. We will be sending out, like we said at the very beginning, we'll be sending out this webinar link. It'll be posted on activeprospect.com as well. We'll get it over to Senya. She can post. But anyone who subscribed to this, we will send the link out afterwards. And such a great time talking to you. Such a great time, discussing all things home services. I know a lot of home services folks are very busy in the midst of summer, but, hoping again, wherever you're at as a company and a business, this provided some value to you just in terms of, what to think about when we're either, going back into our business and looking at what are we not doing, what are we doing, and top of funnel and how to be successful there with first and third party channels as well. So great to talk to you, Senya. It's and I don't know when we'll see you next at a show or,
Oh yeah, I'll be at LeadsCon Connect. I believe that I'll be there speaking about some AI stuff. So really exciting. And obviously, if anyone wants to chat, business owners, marketing professionals, this is what I live for. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or go to my website, sisusynergy.com. And Andrew was kind enough to post it in the thread there for us. So I would love to be able to talk shop, be an assistant in any way that I can, and just make sure that we're fostering those leads. So
awesome. Yeah. And last thing I'll say, if you're looking to grow your vendor network, if you're looking for ways to kind of optimize your process from start to finish, top of funnel, reach out to us at Active Prospect. We're very, very strong in it. We have over 225 home services brands with us today that are all seeing success, whether it's on the TCPA compliance side or leveraging all of their third-party vendors through our system. So happy to help you guys there. And I think that's a wrap. Senya.
Love it. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it. Thanks everyone for joining.
Awesome, guys. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.